Just when you think Jeffrey Epstein's story couldn't get any worse, here comes another jaw-dropping revelation. This time, it involves the daughter of his longtime ex-girlfriend. And yes, it's as unsettling as it sounds. Let's rewind for a second. Back in the early 80s, Epstein started dating Eva Andersson, a former Miss Sweden. Their relationship lasted 11 years, making her his longest-term partner. Eventually, Eva moved on and married billionaire hedge funder Plnned Dubin. Together, they went on to have 3 children, one of whom was Selena, who grew up knowing Epstein as a close family friend. But that's where things take a disturbing turn. According to reports, Epstein had an especially close relationship with Selena from a very young age. She even referred to him as Uncle Jeff. And by the time she was just 12, he was reportedly stepping into more of a father figure role, at least on the surface. But behind the scenes, Epstein was already weaving her into his twisted plans. When Selena turned 19, he allegedly told associates that if he ever married anyone, it would be her. That's right. He openly talked about marrying the teenage daughter of his ex-girlfriend. His reasoning? According to sources, it was mostly about dodging inheritance taxes by transferring his wealth to someone close. But was that really the full story? Knowing what we do about Epstein, it's hard not to assume the worst. In 2014, Epstein reportedly made Selena the beneficiary of a trust, possibly setting her up to inherit assets like his private Caribbean island. Her name was removed the following year, but that trust is now worth $50 million. Whether she ever received anything remains unclear. And if you're thinking, surely her parents must have drawn the line somewhere, brace yourself. After Epstein's conviction in 2008 for soliciting sex from minors, the Dubins still stayed in touch. In fact, they even wrote a glowing email to his probation officer saying they were 100% comfortable with Epstein spending time with their kids, including Selena, who was 14 at the time. Eva Dubin called him a godfather figure and praised him as the best friend she could ask for. 1 year after his release, Epstein was at their Thanksgiving dinner. Yes, after the conviction. It wasn't just social ties. Epstein and Dubin had deep financial connections. He introduced Dubin to banking execs like J. Staley and reportedly earned $15 million when JP Morgan bought into Dubin's hedge fund.
So I could never have dreamt that it would be where we are today.
Epstein also directed money into funds run by former employees of Highbridge, the firm Dubin co-founded, further linking him to the Dubin's business world. And the darkest part? According to court depositions unsealed during a case between Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell, Plnned Dubin was allegedly the first man Maxwell sent Giuffre to after her so-called training. She said Maxwell told her to give him a massage. That's often been used as code in Epstein's circle.
At 16, I don't know, I was very intimidated by these people.
Of course, the Dubins have categorically denied all of Giuffre's claims. Through their spokesman, they've said they have evidence that disproves everything. Still, the accusations cast a long, ugly shadow and make you wonder just how deep all of this went. Was Epstein pretending to be a doting family friend just to stay close to Selena? Did the Dubins ignore red flags because of his wealth and influence? Or worse, were they fooled into believing he wasn't a threat at all? Their spokesman insists Plnned Dubin hadn't had business ties with Epstein since 2007 and only saw him occasionally in group settings. As for Eva and Selena, they supposedly only accepted a handful of invites to events where big names like Bill Gates and other powerful figures were present. Still, even after everything came out about Epstein, after the arrest, after the plea deal, after the world knew what he was, they stayed in touch. He was invited to their home, trusted around their children. It's a lot to take in.
Epstein had a strange way of keeping people guessing. Back in 2002, one of his associates described him to New York Magazine as Gatsby-esque, rich, mysterious, aloof. But was it all just an act? Donald Trump, who knew Epstein for years, once said he was a lot of fun to be with, and that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Yikes. Now let's talk about Epstein's love life, or whatever you'd call it. He never got married, but that didn't mean he didn't consider it. According to New York Post, he once said in 2014 that if he were to marry, it'd be Selena Dubin. At the time, she was just 19. But the person most closely tied to Epstein was Ghislaine Maxwell. The daughter of British media tycoon Robert Maxwell, she dated Epstein in the early 90s and stayed involved in his life for decades. One of his exes told Vanity Fair that Ghislaine would casually mention she was still sleeping in Epstein's bed, even after their relationship supposedly ended. Another said she was in love with him the way she was in love with her father, constantly trying to win his approval, hoping maybe he'd marry her if she just did one more thing.
What was the crime of which you were convicted?
Two counts, one soliciting prostitution and procuring a minor for prostitution.
That loyalty took a dark turn. After Epstein's death, Maxwell was arrested in 2020 and charged with helping him exploit underage girls. She was found guilty of multiple charges and, in 2022, sentenced to 20 years in prison. During sentencing, she said, "Jeffrey Epstein should have been here before all of you. It is not about Epstein, ultimately. It is for me to be sentenced." A rare moment of acknowledgement, but for many victims, far from enough.
I honestly wish I'd never met him. Looking back now.
Epstein was known to surround himself with very young, often blonde women. According to Vanity Fair, his Upper East Side home even featured a photo of 1980s actress Morgan Fairchild, apparently his type. Attorney David Boies, who represents several accusers, explained that while not all women around Epstein were underage, many were in their early 20s and caught in what he described as Epstein's sex trafficking orbit.
Victims were given cash payments if they could bring other underage girls to be similarly abused. And that's how he continued to expand the number of new victims that he had.
His relationships weren't just secretive, they were deeply manipulative. One ex said Epstein would go on about polyamory, knowing full well she lacked the self-esteem to challenge him. When she refused an open relationship, he cut her off. Another ex, a Sports Illustrated model, said he always had to have a model on his arm, calling him emotionally stunted and without an inner world. And in public, he often showed up with unnamed companions, always introduced as a guest or mystery woman. One of his former girlfriends summed it up best. He wanted to seem like a man who controlled everyone, who collected people, who could damage people.